हरे कृष्णा प्रभु जी।
Hare Krishna, everyone.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Palam. Just give me
Hare Krishna.
few seconds.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. So let us start with our prayers. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudire Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nandagopakumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanachalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manohishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupaha Chadamayam Dadati Supadantikam Vandeham Shri Guroho Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitam He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Shabhanu Sute Devi Taranamami Haripriye Pancha Kalpatarubhyascha कृपा सिंधुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्ण प्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते रघुनाथ स्वामी नामिने नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्ण प्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवी गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष निवारपाश्च मुखं करोति वाचालं पंगुं गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुं दीनतारिणं परमानन्दमाधवं श्रीचैतन्येश्वरं हरि ओम तत्सत् हरे कृष्ण. So we are discussing Dhruva Maharaj's pastime, chapter 9, Canto 4. We intend in today's class to complete chapter 9. We have discussed up to the point where the Lord has blessed little 5-year-old Dhruva with his darshan. He appeared out from his heart, manifested in his form. Dhruva saw him standing next to Garuda. The Lord came there and alighted from Garuda, and he was there. I think the description is he was keeping one arm on the shoulder of Garuda. Very sweet darshan. And how very beautifully the Lord, after hearing prayers of Dhruva, actually sorry, not after hearing prayers of Dhruva, but after seeing Dhruva's inability to offer prayers, touched him with the conch shell on his head. How Dhruva, being equipped with all necessary transcendental knowledge and also the necessary skills to compose beautiful, choicest poetry, Tamashloka. He sings very beautiful verses which are recorded in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Dhruva in any of these prayers does not ask for anything from the Lord. He just praises the glories of the Lord. In fact, by this point, being purified by the Lord's meditation as well as the Lord's touch, Dhruva is already so purified that he is now attracted exclusively to pure devotional service. He is no longer interested to anything else. And he's not even mentioning to the Lord in his prayers anywhere about what he had actually in his mind when he initiated this whole process. But the Lord doesn't forget. After Dhruva has offered his obeisances, the Lord beautifully gives his blessings to Dhruva. And we discussed that also in great detail last time. But summarily, the Lord gives him two benedictions. First, he gives him the benediction that whatever you had originally asked for and sought, I grant you that. You wanted a kingdom greater than your great-grandfather, greater than the kingdom of Brahma. The only way I can fulfill that desire is I give you my own kingdom, which is within this material world, but still a Vaikuntha planet, which is the Dhruva Loka. Of course, it wasn't Dhruva Loka at that time, but it was the Vishnu Loka, Shweta Dvipa within this planetary system. So I grant you dominion or rulership and residence on that planet. So now you have a kingdom greater than Brahma's. How greater than Brahma's? Because even Brahma's planet is material, even though it's the highest. Brahma Bhavana Loka. Even though Brahma Loka is the highest in the material realm, Dhruva Lok stands above it. And why is Dhruva Lok not considered the topmost planet? Because Dhruva Lok is not a material planet. In the 14 planetary systems, Brahma Lok is the topmost. But Dhruva Lok is a Vaikuntha. Shweta Dvipa is a Vaikuntha. So this dham of Shweta Dvipa is like a, have this concept of embassy. So sometimes a country wants its representation in another country. So I'm in Malaysia. So in Malaysia, India is represented by Indian embassy in Malaysia. And international law says that that embassy physically, that space is considered legally to be a part of the country of which it is an embassy, and even the country in which it is residing doesn't have a jurisdiction inside it. Very interesting. So something like that. It's a Vaikuntha planet within the material world. And Dhruva was granted permanent residence there. And also not just as a resident, but practically as a predominating deity of that planet. So he was granted a position greater than his great-grandfather, which he wanted. And in addition, the Lord said to him, Bhadram te, I also want to give to you the topmost auspiciousness. And topmost auspiciousness is nothing but developing pure, unalloyed love for the Supreme Personality of God. So Dhruva was blessed with both. But there was one thing which Dhruva noticed, and he became actually sad. But just before coming to that point, after giving him all blessings, the Lord also told him something which actually pained him a little bit. And that's what we are going to discuss shortly. That was that the Lord, having blessed him residence in Dhruva Lok, the Lord did not send him immediately to Dhruva Lok. The Lord explained to him the sequence of events that are going to happen. Step 1, go back home. Your little 5-year-old boy, you ran away from home, did all this, finally you are successful, now you go back. Your mother and father are all very worried. So you go back, stay in your father's palace, you will be treated and taken care of very nicely. And what will happen is, in the future, Uttama, your brother, will die when he is gone for hunting. And Suruchi, his mother, who offended you, she will go into the forest searching for him and she will be killed accidentally in a forest fire. And the Lord specifically mentions this because these two were the objects of Dhruva's anger. This is also another very interesting point. So while Dhruva was praying for the kingdom, also in his heart he was feeling resentment towards these two. Now, this is the nature of the conditioned soul. Of course, by this time he's liberated, but originally Dhruva, when he was offended, he was saying that the cause of my problem is Suruchi and Uttama. They are the cause of my problem. So he was feeling a lot of anger, anguish against them. So as a part of the blessing, the Lord explained to him how they will also meet their end. And eventually you will become the king. You will inherit the kingdom of your father, Uttanapad. And you will rule the earth for 36,000 long years with great dharma. Do many sacrifices, do much charity, you'll become very famous, successful king. 36,000 years you'll rule with powerful senses. And after that, when the time comes for you to leave your body, you'll remember me and leave your body and attain Dhruva Lok. And then the Lord blessed him. The Lord sat on Garuda and went back to his abode. Where did he go? To what was just conferred the title of Dhruva Lok. The Lord went back there because that is where he came from, Shweta Dvipa. So on one hand, Dhruva, even though everybody would expect him that he should be so happy and excited, he got super result. Sometimes you sit for a difficult exam and you're not even sure whether you will pass, but you study very hard and finally you realize you topped the whole university. You stood first. I'm so excited. Yes. I never expected this kind of result, but I cracked it. So the whole world was thinking Dhruva has made it. Even the four Kumaras took many lifetimes to reach the level of perfection of pure devotion. And Dhruva cracked it in 6 months. Kumaras took a long time. Dhruva cracked it in 6 months. But still, Dhruva was actually feeling sad rather than feeling happy. Now, this is a very interesting thing the Bhagavad mentions. See, we have to understand the Bhagavad is not just focused on the story. The Bhagavad is focused on the character of the devotees. The story is the setting. But what is more important is the attitude, the thinking, the dealings, the qualities, the behavior of the devotees, because that is what that is where we learn our lessons from for pure devotional service. So the Bhagavatam throws light into how Dhruva was thinking, and Dhruva was Nati Priyaha, the Bhagavatam says. Nati Priyaha is not very pleased. And as soon as this was mentioned by Maitreya Muni, Vidura asked, how come Dhruva was not happy? Such a bumper result he got. He got darshan of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in 6 months, which is so very difficult to achieve. Sudurlabham. So can I please understand why he was feeling dissatisfied even after getting this? So Maitreya Muni explains what was actually going on in Dhruva's heart, and Maitreya Muni says Dhruva was feeling sad because he was recollecting the mentality with which, the aspiration with which he had actually started engaging in the process of devotional service. Even though Dhruva was now totally purified of that material aspiration, because Dhruva never embarked on worship of the Lord with a spiritual motivation. It was Artha, distressed person, and Artharthi, because he also wanted some gain in return to solve his problem. He was neither seeking liberation, nor was he seeking devotion. But by his determined execution of the instructions of his spiritual master, he had achieved such a level of purity that he had become purified of all material contamination. But Dhruva, at that point of purification, as he was reflecting on his past aspirations, he was feeling very unqualified. Because he was feeling, I had so many material desires, I'm not even qualified to get association with the Lord. Mukti Pati has given me mukti by giving me residence in his abode, but actually I'm not qualified. He was actually feeling shameful. He was feeling regret and humility. And he was not just feeling sad because he wanted something material. He was also feeling pinched by the fact that he had harbored in his heart a feeling of some form of a hatred or animosity towards Suruchi and Uttama, because of which the Lord also granted him another part of the benediction, which we just discussed. And he was mortified, thinking that, oh, what is this I was thinking about? Sometimes, devotees also, they feel, oh, why did I think of like this? Why did I, this was not the greatest benediction. Of course, the Lord was kind to him. The Lord gave him both. And that is the kindness of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Even the material desires of the devotee, the Lord satisfies, and the Lord gives him much more. The Lord definitely gave him prema. But the Lord also gave him the fulfillment of his other desires. So Dhruva was lamenting in his heart, I actually achieved the shade of the Lord's lotus feet in only 6 months. Which even the Kumaras took many lifetimes. But he was thinking, I have fallen down from that position because I have material desires, prithak mati. I have a divisive mentality. I desired so many other things. I attained shelter of the Lord's lotus feet, who is Bhavat Chida, who can cut the entanglement of this material world very easily. But I am so manda bhagya, so unfortunate, because of my bodily consciousness, my anatmyam. Therefore, I am foolish. I think that somehow the demigods must have polluted my intelligence. Why he's thinking like this? Because sometimes what happens is, if the devatas see somebody engaging in intense austerity, the devatas become worried that that particular tapasvi may take over the position of the devatas or challenge the devatas. So sometimes they try to influence that particular tapasvi to make him distracted from his real goal. So he was suspecting maybe the devatas try to induce this material desire into me, because they didn't want me to go to Vaikuntha. Now, this is very interesting. Why he's thinking like this? Even though he got the darshan of the Lord, he's saying, oh, I failed. I still have material desire. I am trapped. I am doomed. Because he was feeling, if I was indeed truly fully purified and without any material desire, the Lord would have immediately taken me to Vaikuntha. What did the Lord tell him? You wait. Your father will eventually give the kingdom to you. Then you rule for 36,000 years. Long time? Long time. So if I tell you, because I have no power to grant anything like this, but If I tell you that I give you option, that you continue in the material world for 36,000 years in a prosperous material condition, or continue in the way you are leading your lives and practicing bhakti, and you achieve perfection like that. What will you choose?
I'll choose 2, Prabhu.
Why, Prabhu? Why is 2?
Because 36,000 years is very long.
Very long.
Because material happiness, there's always ups and downs. One side you'll get happiness, and the other side you'll get. I mean, if we see it, our life now, so it's really very, very challenging. So I think 36,000 years is too long, Prabhu. I think if you are given a chance, I don't know, my view is that take it and just go in the next flight if you are qualified. That will be my stance, Prabhu. Thank you.
Haribo. Anybody else has a different opinion?
And Prabhuji,
Choose Bhakti, Prabhuji. Bhakti way.
Sorry, maybe Sridhar Prabhu can speak first, and after that,
yeah, Prabhuji, in this long 36 years, maybe there is a chance of influence of Maya.
36,000, not 36 years.
Sorry, yeah. 6,000.
Yeah. Actually, the nature of great souls is because once you become very advanced in spiritual realization, you actually realize that anyway, there is no real joy. No real joy in having, great opulences. There's a very beautiful verse in written by Prabodhananda Saraswati in glorification of those who have attained the mercy of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Of course, attaining Lord Chaitanya's mercy means getting Krishna Prem, means also achieving Krishna's mercy. So, in that particular glorification, he says, Kaivalya Narakayate Tridashapur Akasha Pushpayate Durdan Dendriya Kala Sarpa Patali Protkadadam Strayate Vishwam Purna Sukhayate Viti Mahendradi Kitayate Yatkarunya Kataksha Vaibhavavatam Gauraya Evastamaha. This is a very long verse, so I'm not going to go through all the aspects, but essentially he says that one who has achieved the mercy of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, for him positions even of Brahma and Indra is like an insect's position. They care 2 hoots. Somebody says, why don't you become Brahma? I have Krishna Prem. What is this Brahma? No, why should I be busy managing materialistic people for 311 trillion years? I just want to chant, You just see that the mercy of Lord Chaitanya is, if you simply chant Hare Krishna regularly, if you follow the 4 regulative principles, if you are not offensive to devotees, and if we humbly engage in service of the Lord and the Vaishnavas in one lifetime. How much is one lifetime? 70, 80, 90 years, out of which for most of us, half the life is already gone. So another 30, 40 years. Of course, I wish you all live long, but I'm not restricting your life. I'm just saying on an average, another 30, 40 years for most of us. If we follow and accept Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy and follow, in 40 years, we can achieve Golok Vrindavan. So if I can achieve in 40 years, just imagine Dhruva's position is thinking, what am I going to do for 36,000 years? Yes, all opulence, perfect kingdom, ruling very nicely. It means nothing for that platform. Of course, it's an immense blessing from a material perspective. Because Uttanpad's kingdom was not an ordinary kingdom. It was an extraordinarily powerful and prosperous kingdom, and he was going to rule in a very pious way, become very famous. It was not that he was in a cursed position with all powerful senses. So from a material perspective, it's very successful, but he was still feeling, actually, I have been cheated. I did not get the real mercy. This is how he was thinking out of his humility. Because if I was really, I had pleased the Lord, I would have gone back to Godhead immediately. 36,000 years, and after that, I am going to go to Vaikuntha Loka. The others have associated, even though they took time to achieve perfection, they achieved direct association of the Lord much sooner. So I am surely sleeping in the lap of Maya. That's why the Lord has continued to keep me here. Actually, when Narad Muni had told me at that time, why are you being disturbed by these dualities? Why are you feeling upset towards your brother and your mother? I should have listened to them. I didn't listen to them. And I harbored this enmity, and see what has happened because of this enmity. This is what the Lord has given me now. And I cannot even complain to the Lord because that is what I asked for. That is what I wanted. This is how my intelligence had become bewildered. And now I am trapped. Taking shelter of the Lord's Maya, I was sleeping on her lap. Under the vision of duality, I was thinking my brother as my enemy. I was thinking of Uttama as my enemy. And I prayed for useless things. Useless things. Jagadatmanam, I pleased the Supreme Lord. And I prayed for useless things which are like a medicine for a dead man. A man who is dead, if you give him no matter how much medicine, it doesn't going to make any change. I wanted material prosperity, name and fame. Even though the Lord offered me his Swarajam, his personal association, his personal service, I was like a foolish poor man who was in front of an emperor who could have asked for so much valuable things. But the foolish poor man just asked for a few grains of broken rice. Alas, see, this is my situation. Because of my material desire, I have cheated myself. It's not that the Lord has cheated me. I have cheated myself because that is what I wanted. I was granted what I wanted. Why did I desire like this? So he was deeply repenting. Why did I even desire like this? So while the world may think, wow, this is such a great blessing. Because generally conditioned souls, the mentality is, yeah, now I want to enjoy a lot in this world. And then I will go back to God. So for many of us, even if Krishna comes and says, can we go now, immediately? We'll say, can I just a little more, you just give me some blessings, let me sort things out, let me have a good life, then I'll come to you. That is the problem of the conditioned souls. So this is the reflection that Dhruva was having. Summarily, Dhruva was saying, and Prabhupada describes this many times, or Acharya says, that I had the opportunity of getting a priceless diamond in your form, in the form of the Lord. But all I ended up getting is broken pieces of glass. Yeah. Broken pieces of glass also look like diamonds, right? Externally. Small pieces. They also shine a bit. But if you go to touch broken pieces of glass, you end up cutting yourself and bleeding. So similarly, those who are attracted by this illusory shine of material Maya actually end up cutting themselves, suffering under the influence of the three modes. And I was like that. I was fooled. Rather than accepting the personal service of the Lord immediately, I have now been left with all this. So even though this is in one sense such a great achievement, if you look at it from Dhruva's perspective, like Sudhir Sundar Prabhu very correctly said, if the Lord tells us, okay, from now onwards, you are the ruler of the earth planet and you will manage the earth for another 36,000 years. My God, if the Lord says, it will be like a curse. Because the opportunity that we have now, if we remain without material desire, that we can perfect our life at the end of this life, even though we may just be staying in Pines condominium or loft and lead mediocre lives of employees in corporates, banks, private businesses, with all the ups and downs of an ordinary middle class, upper middle class background, still we can go back to God at the end of this life. So for a sincere devotee, why would he choose to wait for 36,000? So that was Dhruva's frustration. I hope you can relate to his dilemma. Maitreya at the end of this reflection of Dhruva says to Vidura, very beautiful verse. He says, Navai mukundasya padaravindayo rajo jushash tata bhavadrashajjanaha vanchanti taddasyam rite arthamatmano yadrichaya labdamana samruddhayah. Persons like you, Dhruva is, Maitreya is praising Vidura. Persons like you, Vidura, who have tasted the dust of Mukunda's lotus feet, Krishna's lotus feet, because Vidura had tasted, he was such a pure devotee. You are always satisfied in serving him and never ask for any material prosperity. And people like you, your minds are completely satisfied with whatever comes on its own accord. Very beautiful. This is exactly what we have been discussing. And this is the state of Dhruva. It is so much better to be absorbed and enjoy and relish pure devotional service to the Lord and taste the nectar of his lotus feet. And in the material situation, whatever is the condition, just accept whatever condition we are put in and just carry along. And very soon we will be transferred back to the spiritual world. A devotee is not too interested in trying to better his material condition. Yes, he wants to do enough to make his ends meet. But he's not too excited about material advancement. He's not excited about getting a kingdom greater than his great-grandfather. Of course, in our case, our great-grandfather didn't have a kingdom anyway, but the biggest kingdom in the planet, they're not so excited about that. Because they know anyway there is no joy, no matter how high I go in this material world. It's better I taste the nectar of the Lord's lotus feet, and whatever comes along materially, I will just accept and tolerate and just carry on. Very beautiful. And that was exactly the lamentation of Dhruva. So meanwhile, as Dhruva was lamenting like this, of course, the Lord had gone back to Shvetadvip. Dhruva was returning back home, back to the kingdom of his father, Uttanapad. The news reached Uttanapad that Dhruva was on his way back. Because Uttanapad was eagerly waiting. Uttanapad had no idea where Dhruva was, but he had faith. Because Narada had told him earlier, Dhruva is safe, he will accomplish his objective and he will return. So he had faith in that instruction. So he was waiting, and finally got the news. He was so excited. The one who came him and gave him the news, he gave him a valuable necklace as a gift. And eagerly, in a huge procession, he came out of the city, all the way a procession to the outskirts to receive Dhruva and welcome him back to the capital city. And as he was in his procession, he was accompanied by musicians, he was accompanied by his ministers. Brahmanas were reciting the Vedas. It was very attractive. Procession. It says simultaneously, Suniti, the mother of Dhruva, also came in a palaki very eagerly to see her son. It is said at that time, Uttanapad, after Dhruva's departure, Uttanapad was so deeply repentful of whatever he did, and he had almost started neglecting Suruchi and favoring Suniti. So Suniti was coming in a palace. Uttanapad was not even bothered whether Suruchi and Uttama are coming or not. But Suniti was so kind-hearted that she got Suruchi and Uttama to sit in her own palki, and they all proceeded towards the outskirts of the town. Finally, Dhruva came in front of the procession. Uttanapad, when he saw little Dhruva, he got down from his chariot and with great affection, he ran towards him and embraced the boy. And he was so happy. It is said the king smelled Dhruva's head again and again and bathed him with his tears. Dhruva was very respectful. At this point in time, he had given up all feelings of enmity, either towards Uttama, towards Suruchi, or even towards his father. He had his only repentance or shame was his own mentality of whatever he felt and whatever he had desired. But he had no feeling of any negativity towards any of his family members. Dhruva bent and offered obeisances to his father's lotus feet. And after offering obeisances to his father, he offered obeisances to both his mothers, Sunuti and Suruchi. And both of them blessed him. Even Suruchi, by that time, she had given up her envious mentality. And she picked him up and embraced him. And with tears, she blessed him. May you live long. So somebody may wonder, oh, how is it? What happened to Suruchi? She was so envious. How come suddenly she became so affectionate to Dhruva? So immediately in the next verse, the Bhagavatam explains why it is like this. It's very wonderful. This is something very interesting. The verse says, this is verse 47 of the 9th chapter. Yasya prasanno Bhagavan Gunair Maitradi Bhir Harihi Tasmai Namanti Bhutani Nimnam Apa Ivasvayam. All living entities naturally offer respect to that person who has transcendental qualities due to friendly behavior with the Lord, just as water automatically flows down by nature. So the simple meaning of this verse is that because of their connection with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the devotees of the Lord also become very attractive because of their purity and their connection to the Lord. They also become very attractive. So even those who are inimical to them previously, now after their purification will automatically feel attracted. They cannot feel enmity because the devotee is without any envy, without any anger, without any hatred. So even others who have that in their heart also, they will no longer feel it when they come in front of them. Usually what happens is we have hatred towards somebody, they come in front of us, they have hatred towards us, so our hatred and the other person's hatred, it rubs and it ignites each other. But when you meet a very saintly person, a very purified person, they have no hatred. They just have love. They are emitting love because they are cognizant of their spiritual position. They are cognizant of the unity of all living beings as all as part and parcels of the Supreme Lord. So when one comes in contact with such a pure soul, one cannot but be overwhelmed by feelings of love. So whenever you are in the presence of very advanced devotees, you will feel this. That's why even in the Shad Goswami Ashtaka, it said, Dhira Dhira Janau Priya Priya Karau, Dharmat Sarau Pujitau. The 6 Goswamis, they were dear not only to the saintly people, but even to the ruffians, the rogues. They were very dear. Why? Because they were nirmatsara, non-envious, and they were so saintly. That is what the Bhagavatam is saying. That Dhruva had become so purified and so full of love that Suruchi also naturally felt affection. And she forgot all her enmity. Uttama and Dhruva also embraced each other. And they were shedding tears of love. Suniti also embraced Dhruva. And Dhruva was, the Bhagavatam says, more dear than her life. And she was just waiting. She was like pining for him. And as soon as she embraced him, she became free from her misery. The people of the town who had gathered there also were glorifying Suniti of her good fortune of getting a son like Dhruva, and also the good fortune that Dhruva is going to be ruling and protecting the earth for a long time. So, having been welcomed like that, all of them went back to the city as Dhruva was being glorified. In fact, it said Uttanapad had himself and Dhruva and Uttama sit on the back of an elephant. So initially he came by a chariot, but then they all sat on an elephant, all meaning these 3, Uttanapad, Dhruva and Uttama. And they went back to the palace. Of course, as they went back to the palace, the Bhagavatam, the next few verses, 54 to 59, describe how the whole city was decorated in a very, very festive way, as if it was a grand, big festival. It is said everywhere there were nice, beautiful banners. There were banana trees, betel nut leaves, beautiful archways. The doors were decorated with, they were draped with beautiful cloth. There were mango leaves hanging, colored clothes hanging, strings of pearls, beautiful water pots, lamps everywhere. So there are a lot of descriptions given of how the whole city was very beautifully and ornately decorated. So I'm not going to go through all those decorations. It's very nice. And many auspicious ingredients were sprinkled over the roads. So as all this auspicious environment with many chaste women offering blessings to Dhruva, Dhruva finally entered the palace of Uttanapad. Then the palace of Uttanapad is described, which is also extremely opulent. The kingdom of Uttanapad was almost like heaven on earth. So there's a description of the bedding. It is said that the bedding was as white as the foam of milk and was very soft. The bedstead was made of ivory and it was nicely covered and embellished with gold. The chairs and benches and furniture were made of gold. Walls were made of marble and engraved with very beautiful designs and valuable jewels. There were beautiful gardens which had trees which had been brought from heavenly planets. And those beautiful gardens were filled with beautiful birds who were chirping, making beautiful sounds, and beautiful bumblebees were roaming around that intoxicated arena, which was full of the smell, the beautiful fragrant smell of the beautiful flowers there. There were lakes within the palace with emerald staircases. And the lakes were full of blue and white lotuses. Swans were swimming around in those lakes, ducks, charvakas, and cranes. So it is said Dhruva finally came. So essentially he came to his kingdom. And at that point in time, actually, Uttanapad became so affectionately attached to Dhruva. It is said that he didn't even allow Dhruva to stay with his mother anymore in the mother's palace. And he made sure that Dhruva was always with him all the time, so that he got his association. In due course, it is said, Uttanapad, seeing that Dhruva had achieved maturity, he discussed with his ministers, consulted with them, with their approval, and seeing that even the citizens loved Dhruva, Uttanapad enthroned Dhruva to be the king, and he himself took Vanaprastha. Because he wanted to then focus on his own spiritual life. He said, my son has achieved perfection. But of course, by the arrangement of the Lord, he's supposed to be the king. So let me give the kingdom to him. Now I have to advance in spiritual life. So it is said he gave the kingdom to Dhruva, enthroned him, and becoming detached, he himself entered the forest to cultivate spiritual life through austerity, purification, and yoga. So that brings us to the end of this chapter. So summarily, Dhruva received the Lord's blessings in one sense to the full, but still Dhruva could see that he had cheated himself by having a material motivation in worship. So he was deeply ashamed and repentful of his mentality. And this is the nature of great souls. Great souls are so humble. Great souls are so humble that even though they may have so many wonderful qualities, they're not too eager to consider themselves as great. Rather, they always give all credit to the Lord's mercy. And even though there may be very small things, they see that them as their own faults. And in that way, they remain very, very humble. And that is the ornament of the devotees. So I'm going to pause here. Since we're at the end of the 9th chapter, I'm going to open up the floor. And then we can discuss. So there are some interesting stories. In case you're wondering, oh, Dhruva has not even gone to Dhruvalok. Yes, Dhruva has not even gone to Dhruvalok yet. He's just come back to the palace. Stayed. It is not explained how long he stayed with his father. The story is not over yet. Dhruva story. Only 9th chapter has ended. There is more interesting stories in the next chapter about Dhruva. What happened later? So the next chapter is entitled Dhruva Maharaj Fight with the Yakshas. That is 4.10. Then 4.11, Swayambhu Manu advises Dhruva to stop fighting. So next 2 chapters. And then the 3rd chapter, Dhruva Maharaj goes back to Godhead. So 9th chapter itself, we took 3 or 4 classes. and then descendants of Dhruva Maharaj. So there are another 3 or 4 chapters. So there is still sort of a beautiful katha there. Of course, we'll go through that section much faster as compared to what we discussed here, because it's not, like I mentioned, it's not just about the story last time. It's about understanding the finer aspects of the consciousness of these great souls, learning from how they think, learning from how they reflect, learning from how they deal with various situations. There's a lot of wisdom there, and that's what Bhagavatam is about. It is revealing the heart of the devotee Bhagavat. That's what we want to peep into. Okay, so still some time before Dhruva is going to go to Dhruva Lok. Still 36,000 years. He's just been enthroned as the king. So I'm opening up the floor. If there's any comment or question, we can take.
Hare Krishna. Bhakti.
Yes, Amit. Hare Krishna.
Yes. So this 36,000 years that you got the blessing to rule the kingdom for was, if you consider the average lifespan in Satya Yuga, it is not inordinately long, right? I think the average
It
lifespan
is. Satya Yuga is 100,000 years.
100,000 years. So I mean, if Dhruva ascends to the throne, when he is about 40, 50, then that 36,000 year period is pretty much in line with the lifespan of people in Satya Yuga, right? So it was just that, he will rule the kingdom till the end of his life.
Sorry, give 2 minutes. When Prabhuji talk, we can see here.
So yeah, that is true. That is one of the reasons why we consider that we are fortunate to be in Kali Yuga, right? Because we don't have to spend such a long period of time in one short life. We can actually achieve pure love, especially when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy is there. Kalau dosha nide rajan asti eko mahadgunaha kirtana deva krishnasya mukta sangha parambraji. Even though Kali Yuga is an ocean of faults, one may say, oh, Satya Yuga is so nice, one can live for 100,000 years. Kali Yuga maximum 100 years. From one perspective, one may think, oh, 1 lakh years is so nice, 100 years. But if your goal is to go back to Godhead and not live in the material world comfortably, then what is a better deal? If you can practice spiritual life in 1 life and perfect yourself in 100 years, even though you are living in Mumbai, Pune, Nashik, Kuala Lumpur, Hyderabad, Bangalore, wherever we may all be, isn't that a better deal? Is it better to have 100,000 years in Satya Yuga or 100 years in Kali Yuga? Of course, if both are materialistic, then Satya Yuga is better. But for those who are serious spiritual sadhakas who have taken shelter of the Yuga Dharma of the chanting of the holy names, this is a better deal. So in that sense, yes, perhaps you are right, 36,000 years, that way is not such a long time. But Dhruva was thinking that he could have been spared that pain of continuing to live in material existence. Correct? Like so many times we discuss, right? I mean, just because one has high position, high wealth, doesn't mean they have a comfortable life. In fact, the nature of the material world is the higher one goes, the more anxiety. It is not that Dhruva, he had strength and vigor, he had a prosperous kingdom. He was not free from all anxieties. Because the nature of the material world is you have to deal with the challenges which come in the material world day in, day out. Of course, a great soul is not affected or bewildered in the normal course, in the way that an ordinary living entity is, but still, it is not always a pleasurable activity. Like most of the times it is not. And that is what in the next few chapters we will realize how Dhruva continued still to go through certain challenges. And in some of those challenges, he even faltered. That's why this story is very, very interesting. So we will see how those 36,000 years also had its very, very interesting challenges. So the point of all this at the end of the day is we have to realize how fortunate we are for the opportunity we have received. Right, Amit? Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhuji, thank you. And I just read the purport by Srila Prabhupada. Yeah, it exactly mentions the same thing. It says that Dhruva's lamentation was, why didn't the Lord take me with him immediately? Why did he allow me to live in this world? That was his lamentation, is what the purport says. You're right.
Yes, I'm right because I'm repeating what Prabhupada said. Yeah, exactly. Yes. Yeah. So the acharyas have revealed to us. So that is the consciousness. So you see, materially we may think, wow. See, and this is why sometimes even in Mahabharata, I just want to make this quick comment. I'll come to you, Suraj, in a minute. See, sometimes even when we read Mahabharata, what do we think? Oh, what was the point for the Pandavas? Even though they were so pious, they suffered so much. And Kauravas were living in wonderful, nice palace for so many years. Wow, even though they were sinful, better I become like Kauravas. Now, this is a very, very superficial understanding of the situation because we do not understand the consciousness of the pure souls. The Pandavas, being very advanced devotees, were perfectly happy, even though they were living in the forest and they had the association of great saintly people. They had repeated association of Krishna. They were very happy. Duryodhan, even though he was living in a palace, he was burning with envy all throughout the period. He could not sleep one day peacefully. So that's why we cannot judge the level of happiness of people just by seeing their external material situation. That's why the best position to be even in this material world is to be a pure devotee, because a pure devotee, just like we read in this chapter also, it is said that for them it doesn't matter where they are in the material world. Lord Shiva, he tells Parvati Devi, this is in Chitraketu Maharaj's pastime, is also in the Bhagavad, we'll discuss this later. But Lord Shiva tells this very wonderful thing to Parvati. He says, and I'm not going to go into the story of the context in which she says, because that's again a very long discussion. But he says, Narayana para sarve nakutaschana bhyati swarga apavarga narkeshu api tulyartha darshan. That, oh Devi, oh Parvati, please see those who are dedicated to Lord Narayan. What is the exceptional character they have? Those who are dedicated to Narayan, those who are his pure devotees, they are never fearful of anything in this world. It doesn't matter to them what their condition is. Whether they are poor, rich, calamities, no calamities. They see everything with equal vision because they are not seeking for anything in this world. It doesn't bother them. They just tolerate whatever are the external situations and they just deal with it to whatever level is needed. But internally, they are always relishing the realization of pure devotional service and always engaged in serving the Lord in various ways. Okay, so until we develop appreciation of this principle, some of these things we cannot relate to. We just think these are all sentimental things, but these are not. We cannot appreciate these things unless we come to some appreciation by the Lord's mercy of what is the gift of pure devotional service and how deeply satisfying it is to the soul. So deeply satisfying that all external situations in this material world become insignificant in comparison to that. Correct? For example, if you have $1 million US, have you seen rich people when they go to a shop? They don't even look at price tags. And they just pick what they want. Just take out a credit card, swipe it and walk off. Because for them, if this costs 1,000 rupees or 800 rupees or 1,200 or 2,000, it makes no difference. Because whatever is that delta, even if it is all added up, is so small for them. Whether it was saved or whether it was spent, it makes no difference to them. Understand? So similarly, for those who are tasting pure love, for them, all this material, little bit of material happiness and distress and all these things are just very small ripples in their consciousness, which is so high. It doesn't really make any significant difference. Their oceanic consciousness is not disturbed by the flow of the rivers, material agitation. Yes, sorry, Suraj, you have a question?
Yeah, Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Yeah.
Dhruva, how was he able to get so much maturity to reflect on himself, Prabhuji? Is it something like Gajendra Moksha, where the elephant reflected?
Yeah. So when he was touched on the head, all knowledge, when he reached perfection, he could very clearly see the contrast between what is worth desiring and what he was desiring. Correct? That's why he gives that example, right? I was in front of an emperor. From when you're in front of an emperor, you can get precious jewels. But what was I asking for? Broken pieces of rice. So he could immediately see right now why so many of us are not able to see even this class, right? We are inviting so many individuals. I'm sure many of you have also invited so many of your friends. Why there are 23 connections here? What happened to the thousands and lakhs of people around? Are we charging anything that they are not coming? Or is it? The point is that they are still running after broken pieces of rice. The valuable gem of Krishna consciousness is available. They don't want to take it because they don't know its value. If you don't know the value of something, you're not going to get attracted to it. So the moment Dhruva came to the platform of Prem, that contrast became suddenly very, very clear to him. Understand? Yeah. And then he started reflecting on it, and the reflection also was triggered by what was Lord Vishnu's blessings, right?
Yeah.
So he in one sense it was a blessing, but in one sense he also felt hurt. Oh, I have to wait 36,000 years. I'm not going to be taken back to Godhead. The Lord has come here. He could have said, "Come on the back of Garuda, let's go." Yes, correct.
Yeah.
Would have done that, right? Okay. Tukaram Maharaj went like that. The Lord sent the Vimana and he went. He was singing, Amizato Amucha Gawa Amsa Rama Rama Ghawa. Going back to my home, he said bye bye to everyone. The Viman came, he sat, went back home, back to God. How long did he live? 40, 50 years in this world. He went back to God. Dhruva had to wait 36,000 years. So who got a better deal? You see, so Dhruva in one sense was feeling cheated. He was feeling cheated that actually I could have got so much better outcome from the situation. But because I started on the wrong footing, which was the material desire, even though I was so close to getting, even though actually Krishna gave him prem, Krishna did not cheat him in that sense, but he was feeling, oh, I lost the chance to go back immediately. Why I have to sit here and rule 36,000 years? It is not that he remained as a condition, so he still got prem. But because of his humility, he was thinking, see, because I had this material desire, I remained here.
Yeah, got it.
Correct. Just imagine, okay? So, if the same thing happens with us, Krishna says, okay, I give you kingdom, you stay here, and you continue in this world for 36,000 years. You will see, let's say you are preaching Krishna consciousness. Those whom you preach to Krishna consciousness, they go back to Godhead. Whom they preach to, and they preach to, and they preach to 100 times, they will all go back to Godhead. You are still sitting here, ruling a kingdom. Correct? Is that going to be exciting or frustrating? So, of course, for a pure devotee, it is a little different in the sense that they are still absorbed in the Lord. But still, material world is material world, right? In the sense that you still have to deal with the various challenges of daily life. So that part will always be there. Okay.
Yeah, Prabhuji. Yeah, thank you. Hare Krishna.
Yes. So this is the Prabhu. You want to say something?
Yes, Prabhu. Prabhu, I just wanted to what is that? Clarify to what points, or even say, okay, the first point was that okay, although the what is that, Kumaras took so many lifetime to what achieve whatever Dhruva Maharaj could what achieve in 6 months when he was doing his prayers. Is there any kind of what is that special boon that because of his past life, or what is there something that he could achieve it in a very, very short time? That's the first point. Second point is that when Dhruva Maharaj initially was what is that praying to the Lord, two of his main concern was because of his brother and his what is that stepmother and so on. So as a devotee, is there any what lessons that we are supposed to learn from this Prabhu? That means when we do our we shouldn't have ill feelings to the others, because eventually what happened is that the brother got killed in during he went for a hunting, and the stepmother got what burned in the fire. I'm trying to figure out what is the lesson as what is that sadhakas that we should sort of learn from this point, bro. I mean, I'm not sure whether my question is clear or no.
Okay, let me see if it answers. So for the first one, I'm not aware of past life of Dhruva, and if there is any connection between why he could achieve the Lord so soon. But what we can see is his intense determination. See, the point, the lesson for us, and Dhruva's example is basically his intense, exclusive focus on the goal. Only in his case, the problem was that his motivation for why he was focused on the goal was not right. It was not spiritual, but because fortunately for him, his goal was perfect, even though his motive was not perfect. By focusing on the Lord, his motivation became purified. That's why we said, right? Akamo sarvakamo va moksha kama udaraditi vrena bhakti yogena yajita purusham param. So there is nothing that I have come across where it is mentioned why, but he's one of those examples who had that kind of a very, very strong, determination. So he's that super example of, extreme focus, discipline, dedication to the goal. A very, very difficult goal. So he's one of the most successful, enterprising individuals practically in all history. So I have not come across, so I do not know whether there is any other explanation to this, but I cannot claim that that is not. This is all that is mentioned here. Second point, the lesson, Prabhupada again and again throughout the purport says that the main lesson is that one should not aspire for anything material in one's devotional service. That's lesson one. And lesson two is, of course, even if one starts with a material desire, eventually it will get purified. That is second lesson. Third lesson is one should be very careful in one's dealings with others. And Prabhupada mentions that, and we discussed this last time also, how Suniti and Suruchi and Uttama got punished for Vaishnava aparadha of what they did. So one should be very careful to not offend a great soul. So it is said, if one offends a great soul, even when he is not yet a great soul, but eventually that person becomes a great devotee, it's still our past offense against that person gets upgraded automatically to Vaishnava aparadha. That is what Prabhupada mentions. So the practical lesson for all of us here, based on Suruchi and Uttama's experience, is that, of course, one thing is to not offend anybody. That's point number one. But at least be very careful within the circle of devotees, the sadhakas, to not offend others. Because those whom we may see as ordinary sadhakas, ordinary people with so many faults, may eventually go on to become very great devotees, very empowered devotees. And we have seen that so many cases. So many cases we have seen. Some may go on to become sannyasis, gurus, or very empowered preachers. And then we end up with the risk of aparadha because we offended them. So that's a risk we should avoid taking. Also, sometimes, even though we may see certain individuals as conditioned souls, they may not be as conditioned as they appear. And this is another very important point. Of course, this is not directly related to Dhruva's pastime, but since we are on this point, I'm mentioning that sometimes great souls are also, by the Lord's arrangement, covered over in a particular way, that they may be born into certain situations, circumstances, bodies, behaviors, that one may see a lot of faults in them. But there are various reasons the Lord puts devotees into such circumstances, and in due course their true nature becomes revealed as really great souls. And this is there are thousands of examples like this, that people thought like, oh, this person is an ordinary, this person, he's just this, he's just that. That's why Prabhupada would say that when devotees were fighting with each other, Prabhupada would often say that you have no idea who your god brothers and god sisters actually are. He told one of his disciples, you have no idea your god brothers and god sisters, you are thinking of them to be ordinary people. You have no idea who they are. If you actually know who they are, you will faint. So that's why, see, we don't know. See, even in Lord Ram's pastimes, please understand, even in Ram's pastime, the monkeys, a vast majority of the monkeys were devatas who had incarnated. They are jumping on trees, doing all kind of funny things. They are all devatas who had incarnated. So it's sometimes very difficult to judge and understand who is who. So the moral also is that it is at least within the community of devotees, if not best to be nice to everybody, at least within the community of devotees, be very careful. At least not, even if we disagree, avoid being critical and offensive of other devotees. In that way, at least we do not risk implicating ourselves. Because that is the truth. We don't know who's who. Because even today, the reality is that there are still many, many devatas who have incarnated and are still on earth, and some are even pure devotees who are right now on the planet and right now even amongst us. But we wouldn't be able to recognize them. So we should generally be careful. Okay. Any did I answer your question, Prabhu? I don't know whether I have all the answers.
Yes, Prabhu. I think the what is that safest part is you have to be extremely careful when you are dealing with devotees and even others.
Yeah, and also another point I just want to emphasize. See, another lesson from Dhruva's pastime is from his lamentation, we can understand that Dhruva was always feeling if my motivation was always pure, if I had listened to my spiritual master and removed my material desire and just worshipped the Lord with a pure motivation, I could have gone back to Godhead immediately. But because I worship with a material motivation, and because the Lord fulfills the material desires also, I have indirectly delayed my final emancipation. And that is why Prabhupada also says that don't worship with a material desire, because the Lord will eventually fulfill your material desire also. And even to when the material desire is fulfilled, that also means you have to continue living in the material world to enjoy that desire. Isn't it? Correct? If somebody says, I want to become Indra. Oh Lord, I want to go back to Godhead, but I want to become Indra. That means you have to live for how long? One Manvantar. How long is one Manvantar? It is 8.64 billion years is one day of Brahma. So like that, 14, there are 14 Manvantaras. Each Manvantara is 1000 divided by 14. 71 or something like that. Sorry. Out of the day of Brahma, there are 1000 cycles, Divya Yugas, out of which 71 Divya Yugas is the duration. So 71 Divya Yugas is 71 into 4.3 million years. It is smaller than the day of Brahma. That's a long time. So in that long duration, even if one aspires for that, and even if the Lord blesses with pure devotion, just imagine how long that living entity has to wait. First of all, he cannot even become Indra immediately. Correct? Because the current Indra is doing his tenure, no? Just like even for Dhruva, the Lord did not say to Uttanapat, come, you get down, let Dhruva sit here. He said, no, Dhruva, go back home, be a good boy. After your father goes, you be the king, you live nicely, 36,000 years, then you die peacefully remembering me, then you come to Dhruva. Okay? So what is going to happen for Indra? Current Indra is there. This Manvantara is not yet over. This is only the 8th Chatur Yuga. There are so many more. Sorry, 28th out of 71. So much more time to go. After this Indra, the next Indra is already booked. Who's the next Indra? Ashwathama is going to become Vyasa, and the next Indra is Bali. So that position is also already taken. So he has to wait 2 Manvantaras. I don't even know whether the third is booked or not booked. See, back to Godhead, Krishna can take you like this. Material world also has certain slots. The Lord follows the system of whatever is so many others have also qualified. So the bottom line is, when we desire for things, even in the material world, we have to be careful, because the real danger is that if the Lord grants our desire, actually it will end up into becoming a problem. And that was Dhruva's frustration. His frustration was not that the Lord didn't give me what I wanted. His frustration was the Lord gave me what I wanted, and I wanted the wrong thing. You understand? The Lord also gave him prema, but because he wanted something which was not fully spiritual, his final emancipation got delayed. Correct? So that's why we have to be so careful. Be very careful what you ask for the Lord, because sometimes the Lord may just grant it. And this is a very broad statement. It has a lot of implications. That's why one should be very careful. I think many times before I ask anything from the Lord, because I still may ask many wrong things, but I'm generally very careful. I think many times, really, what all can happen if I ask for this? That's why Prabhupada always says that even when we ask something from the Lord, should always put a clause at the end, that if this is good for me, let it happen like this. But if you think there is something better, let that happen. So if we let Lord take the decision, then he will always do the perfect thing for our best. Right? Okay, anything else?
Prabhuji, one small question.
Yes.
Sorry, it's late for you.
No, I'm fine. I don't have a problem.
Okay, the same case with Pandavas, right? Pandavas, they already knew that Krishna was Supreme Personality of Godhead. But again, they took time to go back to Godhead, right, Prabhuji? Because God established Yudhishthira as a king and he ruled for many years. So there is a contrast between these two, right?
Yeah, but that was not so long. They didn't wait that long.
Okay.
They didn't wait that long. I don't remember on top of my head how long it was, but it was probably not more than 25 to 50 years after Mahabharata war. Not very long.
Yeah, got it. Thank you.
Yeah. Of course, when pure devotees are in this material world, they don't suffer in the same way like what we are suffering. But nonetheless, see, we have to understand, if you are in this material world just sitting in the association of devotees, hearing and chanting and being absorbed, it is still a different thing. But if you are in this material world in the position of a great king or an administrator, you have to go through all the administrative, managerial affairs day in, day out, deal with all kinds of issues, conflicts. Imagine now with the kind of situation that is there in Russia, Ukraine, is it a good thing to be the head of state of any European country or America or Ukraine or Russia? Just imagine what you have to go through on a daily basis. Right? It's not a pleasurable situation. It's a deeply challenging situation. So even if it's a pure devotee, it is going to be a very painful, strenuous thing, which actually pure devotees are not interested in anyways. Sometimes they may do it as a service because the Lord wants them to do it. And there is an example of Maharaj Priyavrat. We'll discuss about that in the 5th canto. But otherwise, they're thinking, what is my business doing all this? You understand what I'm saying? Yeah, correct. So that is their thinking. We should always remember positions of great power. We think they are very attractive positions, but they are lot of headache, lot of responsibility. It's a sharp blade that one can hurt oneself very badly.
Yeah, understood. Thank you.
Okay. Any other point?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. I just wanted to add one point, Prabhu.
Yeah, go ahead.
I said in one of the class, as a devotee, if you can smile and if you can have a good night's sleep, That is really a big thing in life. Just wanted to add one point.
Yeah. So see, that is why devotees or sadhakas, we don't really aspire to become something very big. If Krishna wants us to become big for the purpose of service, that's okay. That we will accept as Krishna's service, and Krishna will empower us accordingly. But otherwise, we do not consciously want to become big. We don't think that if I become very big, I'll be happy. Actually, that's a very big myth. That's a very big myth. People actually end up becoming so much more miserable. We are much more happier net as compared to very rich and very powerful people. So that is the illusion of material energy. So it is not a blessing, it's a curse. So yeah. Yes, Prabhu, thank you. Okay. So thank you all very much. So I will see you on Saturday. I just wanted to know, sorry, today is Saturday, tomorrow is Sunday. So should we do our, is tomorrow is due, right? Our sadhaka
Yes, Prabhu.
class. So should we do tomorrow? Are you all,
Yes, Prabhu.
how many of you can attend? Please put your hand up or thumbs up, whatever way.
Yes, I can, Prabhuji.
Oh, okay, fine. I think it's a fair number. Okay. So we'll do that. So 9 o'clock, we will do that. Whoever can attend. And yeah, so let's meet tomorrow. If you can, please join us. Thank you very much. Dhruv Maharaj ki jai, Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Samaveta Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai.
Hare
Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna,
Prabhu.
Prabhu.
Thank you,
very much.
Hare
everyone.
Krishna,
Thank
Prabhu.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare
Krishna,
Bo.
Prabhuji.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hari Bol. Hare Krishna, Rita ji, Shraddha ji, Sridhar ji. Thank you, everyone.